Tonight, President Trump pushes back against accusations Israel is committing genocide while calling for more aid for hungry Palestinians.
We want the people fed, and we're the only country that's really doing that.
The latest on the pressure for a ceasefire between Israel and Hamas. Plus, a less than stellar jobs report leads the president to axe the head of the Bureau of Labor Statistics. This as the U.S. approaches the start of tariff increases. We examine the potential impact and when Americans may feel the pinch. And deportation numbers reach near-decade highs, why some faith leaders are begging the administration to soften its efforts.
He didn't have a bed to sleep on. He didn't have a shower. Didn't have a sink for brushing his teeth.
All this and more tonight on Faith Nation. Gruesome new hostage videos spark outrage and calls for a ceasefire in Gaza. Good evening in Washington, I'm Jenna Browder. The disturbing new footage released by Hamas and Islamic Jihad shows two Israeli hostages, skin and bones, begging to be saved. In one video, 24-year-old Eviatar David is deep inside a Gaza tunnel, digging what he describes as his own grave. Former hostage Tal Shoham confirms he was held in the same tunnel complex and describes what he witnessed there.
Even when I was there, it's a severe vitamin C deficiency. It's really dangerous disease. And from looking on him now, I really think that he doesn't have more than few days.
And another video shows 21-year-old Rom Breslavsky, a German-Israeli captive, who said he's suffering unbearable pain. In Jerusalem, White House envoy Steve Witkoff met with hostage families, telling them President Trump wants to broker a ceasefire that would return all remaining hostages, as international aid groups warn that famine in Gaza is getting worse. And with that, let's bring in our panel, Senior White House correspondent Kelly Wright and Joe Truzman, Senior Research Analyst and Editor at the Foundation for Defense of Democracy's Long War Journal. Both of you welcome. So, Kelly, the White House is talking about an all-or-nothing deal in Gaza. What can you tell us about that and the president's strategy?
Well, Jenna, that's right. The president is looking at the videos of the same things that we've been watching, and he's heartbroken by all of this and very frustrated. He wants an end to this situation that's been going on since October 7th, 2023. And now Steve Witkoff has indicated that this is no longer a piecemeal deal. This is an all-or-nothing approach now that they're pushing in order to get all of the hostages returned home, and to do it expeditiously, not in incremental stages, but to do it in full total release of all the hostages, those who are alive and those who unfortunately have passed away since being in captivity. The bottom line here is that the president wants it done immediately. The problem and the impediment has always been Hamas.
Yeah. The families of these hostages, they're certainly hoping for that, too. We've had Eviatar David's brother on this show twice, I believe, and seeing those images this weekend, it just broke my heart thinking about that family. Joe, we're seeing reports that Netanyahu is looking to order a full takeover of Gaza. Meanwhile, more than a dozen former security officials say Israel is losing and should end the war now. What do you make of all of this?
Right. First of all, thank you for having me on. Well, there's the problem here for the Israelis is that there's two main goals, all right, since the beginning of the war: destroy Hamas and as well rescue the hostages. We're almost 2 years into this war now, and so far, not all of the hostages have been rescued, and Hamas is still operating. So now I think the United States and Israel is at a point where it is warning Hamas, okay, Israel may occupy or may take over the Gaza Strip entirely if you do not sign a ceasefire deal. But the problem is that may not work with being able to rescue all of the hostages, all right? And that's the problem, I think, that the Israeli political echelon faces, the Israeli government, of course, and Israeli citizens. So this is why this is such a contentious issue at the moment. It may be either destroy Hamas or rescue all the hostages that are still there.
Yeah, it's a very delicate balance and a real political headache for the Israeli government. Kelly, we've seen increased warnings of famine inside Gaza. Washington has said the U.S. will help Israel set up food centers. Has the White House given any more details on that, what that might look like?
So, Jenna, to your point, the president has indicated that he wants to establish U.S.-based food centers in Gaza in order to get the food to the people in need of it, and he wants to do that through Israel, meaning the Israeli Defense Forces. But the problem is Hamas. Hamas remains the impediment. Hamas remains the problem, and using the propaganda war, they, as Jonathan Conricus has talked to us on this program, they've been able to win this propaganda war by interfering and impeding some of the distribution of that food. Now, you recall this past Friday, Steve Witkoff, as well as Ambassador Mike Huckabee, went into Gaza. These are the two senior officials of the Trump administration who actually entered into Gaza, and they had briefings with IDF forces as well as members, relief workers, if you will, of the GHF, the Gaza Humanitarian Fund. And Ambassador Huckabee pointed out how the GHF has been able to provide 1 million meals a day to people in need of the food. And the criticism from the UN as well as other relief organizations have stated that's not enough. But it is something that's being done in order to establish those food distribution centers. They've taken that firsthand information, sharing it with the president. The president and his team will now figure out how to do and implement those food centers, as well as provide medical relief.
Yeah. Joe, I wanted to ask you about the hostage videos and the timing of those. Just released as international pressure is mounting on Israel over the Gaza aid issue, as Kelly was just mentioning. From your perspective, Joe, why did Hamas and Islamic Jihad choose this moment to release these horrible, horrible videos?
Right. I think you, in part, answered the question. Listen, Hamas, Palestinian Islamic Jihad, and other Palestinian terrorist organizations, well, they read the news like you and me. They see what's how the international backlash that Israel has been receiving over the last weeks due to the humanitarian issue in Gaza. So they figured now is a good time to publish these videos. They knew what the reaction will be or would have been to the pictures of these seriously emaciated Israeli hostages, these captives. So it plays into their strategy. And what's that strategy? They're trying to force the Israeli government to sign a ceasefire deal that's on Hamas's terms. All right, this is done to pressure the Israeli government to elicit an emotional response, these pictures of these emaciated hostages. Mm-hmm. So this is why they chose to do it now. And so far, we've seen how the media has reacted to these pictures. But for now, we have not seen a ceasefire deal signed by either side.
Yeah. All right, Joe and Kelly, great conversation. Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you. In other news tonight, a political showdown in Texas. The fight over a Republican-led redistricting effort has resulted in Democrat lawmakers leaving the state to prevent a vote. Governor Greg Abbott responded with a threat to remove them from office if they don't come back to work. Caitlin Berg is following this story and joins us now with the latest. Caitlin, why are Democrats so against this push to redraw the congressional maps?
Jenna, their main issue is that the proposed map would change boundaries of electoral districts in cities including Austin, Houston, and Dallas. Democrats say the move would intentionally dilute the Black and Latino vote in those areas and could flip congressional seats to Republicans next year, allowing them to keep their House majority. It's led Democrats to take some pretty drastic measures.
This is a national issue. Even though this is Texas specific, it's impacted the entire country. That the balance of democracy hinges on potentially what happens in Texas with these 5 seats that President Trump said he needed to keep a slim Republican majority in the House.
Currently, the redistricting vote is on hold. That's because Texas requires at least 2/3 of its state legislators be present when votes are held.
But Texas Democrats are fighting back. We're leaving the state, breaking quorum, and preventing Republicans from silencing our voices and rigging the next election.
Many of the missing Democrats are in Illinois, getting support from Governor J.B. Pritzker.
You are answering one of the most challenging calls of public service that has ever been asked of you. And you've had to leave behind your families, your full-time jobs, your communities, and you did it to protect the voting rights of the people that you represent and voters all across this nation.
Governor Abbott is doing this in submission to Donald Trump so that Donald Trump could steal these communities' power and voice.
Republicans maintain the process is legal, with the map being redrawn for political reasons, not discriminatory ones.
You can draw districts based on political performance, political partisanship. That's recognized by the United States Supreme Court. These districts were drawn primarily using political performance. That criteria from the U.S. Supreme Court.
Congressional maps are usually redrawn every 10 years following a new census. Now this mid-decade redistricting push in Texas is resulting in other governors threatening to follow suit, which could lead to a more wide-scale redistricting battle ahead of the midterms. Jenna?
Coming up, new tariffs take effect this week, what it could mean for you and some of the things you buy. In economic news tonight, Americans are bracing for possible price hikes as new tariffs kick in this week. New polling shows most people are feeling a bit stressed about the cost of groceries. Only 14% say it's not a worry. And about 40% of Americans under 45 have turned to buy now, pay later plans to cover small purchases or essentials like food and medical care. The White House says the tariffs will boost American manufacturing and return billions to the economy long term. All this comes as the job market shows signs of weakness. Unemployment rose to 4.2% in July, with only 73,000 jobs added. And the government now says it overcounted jobs in May and June by about 250,000. On Friday, President Trump fired the head of the Bureau of Labor Statistics, saying the jobs data was manipulated. Critics are rejecting those claims. All right, for more on this, we're joined by Dr. Steve Skaggy, Chief Economic Advisor at Keel Point. Steve, welcome. So I'd like to start just with your reaction to that news. President Trump this weekend firing the nonpartisan head of the Bureau of Labor Statistics.
Well, thanks, Jenna. It's great to be on with you. As to the firing of the head of the Bureau of Labor Statistics, it's hard to see how that achieves anything. The person was well respected within the economics community, and it would be impossible for the person in that job to change the numbers. But certainly I understand the president's frustration to have such big corrections. I mean, if you just look at, it's one thing for new jobs in July to go down to 73 from, 143 in June, but then for June's numbers to be revised down from, 147 actually to just 147,000 to 14,000, that just screams of there being a problem in the survey data. And the problem is that it's survey data that then gets corrected and readjusted with actual payroll numbers. So clearly we have a problem, but firing the person responsible and claiming that they were manipulated is probably not the quickest way to get to the bottom of it.
Yeah, let's talk about the new tariffs, Steve, taking effect this week. How much do you think families at home will feel these tariffs, and could we see some notable price hikes for things like groceries, medicine?
Well, we will see price hikes for groceries and medicines in particular, and as we come into the back to school period. We need to remember that 90% of the apparel, the clothes that we buy in the United States are made overseas, and a lot of those come from Asia, China, Vietnam, and places in that region. And for the prices, for the tariffs to be, in some cases, 40% or more, those price increases are just going to get passed through to consumers. Maybe not all at once, but consumers are certainly going to feel that, especially as we get into the back to school season.
Yeah, Steve.
But overall, tariffs have.
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
I was going to say, tariffs have increased from about 2.3% last year to over 17% now with what President Trump did last week. That's as high as we've seen in the last 100 years. And they're just going to get, a good bit of it will get passed through to consumers. And for the average consumer, that's about another $2,500 in taxes that they're going to be paying on the things that they buy. Mm-hmm. And for middle and lower income Americans, that's a big number. That's a big percentage increase in their spending.
No doubt, no doubt. All right, Steve Skanke with Keel Point. Always nice to see you, Steve. Thank you so much. Up next, immigration arrests in America. Why some fear religious freedom could be at risk. Welcome back. The Justice Department is distancing itself from a White House claim that ICE would make 3,000 immigration arrests per day, telling courts no such quota exists, despite senior advisor Stephen Miller's publicly saying otherwise. That contradiction is fueling legal challenges, with judges warning the crackdown may have led to unlawful arrests. And while the administration says its target is violent criminals, critics point to religious asylum seekers being swept up as well. Charlene Aaron has the story.
The latest case involves Maryland pastor Daniel Fuentes Espinal from Honduras. While he's accused of overstaying his visa by 25 years, many in Easton call him a law-abiding member of the community who deserves fair treatment and the opportunity to remain free.
News footage shows residents and supporters taking to the streets to protest the arrest of the 54-year-old pastor. ICE agents detained Fuentes Espinal, pastor at Jesus Te Llama Iglesia del Nazareno Church, July 21st, on his way to work at a construction site. The pastor has reportedly lived in the U.S. since 2001 on a 6-month visa. After his arrest, he was transferred from Baltimore to an immigration facility in Louisiana. Family friend Lynn Foxwell says Fuentes Espinal told him about conditions he had to endure at the Baltimore facility.
He didn't have a bed to sleep on. He didn't have a shower, didn't have a sink for brushing his teeth. Charlene, he literally had to use a bucket, and I don't mean to be graphic for your viewers, but he had to use a bucket for bodily functions.
Pastor Fuentes Espinal's church members are no longer meeting out of fear the same will happen to them.
Pastor Samuel Rodriguez, president of the National Hispanic Christian Leadership Conference, says ICE arrests are severely impacting churches within his network.
35-40% drop in Sunday attendance. Put this in perspective, close to half of the Latino evangelical church, 40% aiming towards 50. This is serious.
Pastor Gabriel Salguero, founder of the National Latino Evangelical Coalition.
It's really heartbreaking. I receive, without hyperbole, dozens of texts a day from the pastors in our coalition. Daily, I'm receiving texts either from bishops or pastors of members of their churches or pastors in their networks that are being detained and deported.
Pain also felt among Iranian Christians seeking asylum in the U.S. due to religious persecution back home.
He's asylum seeker.
It doesn't matter, sir. We're just following orders.
Last month, Pastor Ara Tarosian of Cornerstone Church in West L.A. witnessed federal agents detaining Iranian-born members of his congregation.
They came for freedom. And for me, it was shocking to see this scene, that this woman on the floor, and it was just heartbreaking for me as a pastor.
To protest this targeting of asylum seekers and advocate for their release, Tarosian recently went on a hunger strike outside the White House. Since then, another family from his church in ICE custody has been released.
Our church was on the tiers. the mom and dad has ankle monitoring, but at least I'm happy that they are in their home. We rejoice. And also I send this message to different lawmakers, President Trump, ICE and DHS, and many others that really help to this.
Meanwhile, Salguero says of the arrest of Pastor Fuentes Espinal, this is exactly the kind of indiscriminate immigration enforcement that is not in keeping with the vow the administration and its allies made to target violent criminals. White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt responding to CBN News' question on the issue.
The administration has always maintained the position that anyone who illegally crosses our nation's borders is subject to deportation. That's just the law of the land, and we must be a nation that enforces our laws. But the priority from ICE, of course, is to deport, detain, arrest, and remove violent illegal aliens and criminals from our country.
Rodriguez says the president wants to do what is right and fair for the vast majority of migrants.
I believe President Trump really has a commitment to seeing a solution. However, there may be elements in the administration who are, for whatever reason in the world, not necessarily implementing what President Trump desires as it pertains to exclusively going after the criminal element.
And that was Charlene Aaron reporting. Okay, still ahead, old-fashioned summer. The kids inspiring other kids to put down their phones and get outside. Finally tonight, a group of kids is getting their hands dirty and bringing back the art of playing outside. They call themselves the Creek Crawlers. The squad of 7 boys and 1 girl from Indianapolis spent their summer fishing, fort building, and playing outside. In June, they shared a video of their adventures on Instagram that has almost 30 million views.
I'm Sam. I'm Michael. I'm Jackson. I'm Ricky. I'm Dex. I'm Lou. And we're the Creek Crawlers. This is day 26 of trying to get to 1 million followers by the end of the summer. And today, we'll be expanding the fort and upgrading it.
So cool. I love it. Well, as the summer does get closer to an end, this friend group says they plan to keep exploring and sell merchandise to support cancer research. That's amazing. Bring back outdoor summers again. All right, that's going to do it for Faith Nation. Have a great evening. We'll see you tomorrow.